So when you think of governance, what do you think? And what do you feel? Do you feel suffocated, angry, or oppressed? Do you think, Chris doesn't like my shirts? Does it make you shrink or act out? Or worse yet, do you feel sucked into spiraling conflicting priorities? Is it draconian leadership with no room for humanity and only room for, I told you so? Do you feel overwhelmed because you're the one stuck being the responsible one? Does governance feel like being a stressed out parent, juggling groceries and checkbooks while one kid has a bloody nose and the other is having feelings? Does it feel like being a stressed out child, confused by parents with good intentions, but trying to do far too much with far too little? Or does it create a feeling of comfort, a sense of structure that is more like a springboard or a safety net? Is it resilience, transparency, fairness, and consistency? I've worn a few hats in my life, as Chris alluded to. And supporting good governance has been part of all of them. I've worked for the Office of the Official Secretary to the Governor General. Our communication had to be pristine, dated, and passive, because if it wasn't, sometimes the Prime Minister got a cranky phone call about breaches in protocol. My last job before moving from Australia was serving as the general manager of a youth circus, serving about 500 students between the ages of 8 and 18. Wow, I'm mysterious over there. I'm a professionally published science fiction author and cartoonist, and my work has gone viral. And I was not prepared, and I did not capture the wave. So while my fans are incredible, and I've been told my work has changed lives, I know that there are people that would benefit from my work who don't because I wasn't ready. I've been a governance consultant, prolific content creator, and I've worked with executive directors to develop comprehensive communication and membership development strategies, helping organizations with powerful missions connect with technology that can help them do what they do best. Bridging digital divides and supporting good governance have been ongoing themes through my life, even when I played roller derby. So what are the challenges we can tackle as colleagues and leaders to go from this or this to this? Bridging digital divides and supporting good governance are entwined, and I'm excited about the developments in AI. I've seen what a simple spreadsheet can do to revolutionize fair processes, and with AI we can do more. As John McCarthy put it, who's one of the fathers of AI and the inventor of Lisp, AI is the science and engineering of making intelligent machines. And he goes on to say, intelligence is the computational ability to achieve goals in the world. And we are facing tremendous challenges in good governance, and we need every tool we have. And machines are really good at doing things that we aren't. Developing AI is an intensive hands-on process. And so is the development of human intelligence, emotional intelligence, and social intelligence. We learn how to be people from each other. And here are a few of the people I've learned from. Ira Creswell, Executive Director of the ACT Council of Social Service, who was incredibly generous and shared strategies around governing and being the brand of your organization. And probably I can blame her for me going on to run a circus. All my physical therapists, who taught me so much about how to inhabit this body of mine and be a more whole person and govern it well. I've got my parents there, both incredible people, and they're why when I was 8, I wrote a short story that didn't just have a committee meeting with an agenda, it had minutes and an action item list that was followed through on. I wish there was room for my editors, Jed Hartman in particular, Lynn Thomas and Michael Damian Thomas, who I brought polished stories to them, and they gave me notes that took it from a 10 to an 11. Editors have asked me questions that revealed to me parts of my own creative process, and I still carry some of their beautiful notes with me. And that's Kim Stanley Robinson. And you can tell I'm just getting choked up just talking about these wonderful, beautiful people in my life. He's one of the great science fiction authors of our time. and he thinks deeply about the structures of our world and how to imagine ourselves into the future. And it's not just the people who shape who we are, it's our environments and structures. Are they ones that stabilize or destabilize? What we do at work and how we do it matters. We spend at least 8 hours a day there, more thinking about it. And most of us, when we go to work, we are trying to achieve goals. And it is often the space which, as adults, we most actively cultivate our intelligence and leverage the intelligence of others. And building on from those structures, when it comes to being a more capable and intelligent human being, computers have been our friends for quite some time now. Oh, there is Texas Instruments. And that's why I know my timetables. And Lotus 123, its tutorial blew my mind when I was 7. It was intense, and you had to get it precisely right. It was my favorite computer game, which maybe says something about me. Now, back then, people had to be taught what a spreadsheet was. Digital natives now probably don't even have a concept of when they learn about a spreadsheet. They have more vivid memories about learning how to do up their shoelaces and giving up Velcro. And Mavis Beacon, all I can say is thank you. We know computers can be non-judging coaches, cost-effective, consistent, and they never get frustrated or too busy. And we can learn from them at 2 a.m. in our pajamas, and you will wear out before they get bored or tired. So these are some of the ways we cultivate the intelligence to govern ourselves and the environments around us. And one of the ways to bring this all together is attachment theory. I'm not going to talk about attachment theory. If you've never considered the workplace with this lens, it's a valuable one. But like parenting itself, it can be really overwhelming. So we're going to go to something a little bit more actionable. Something to use our goal-seeking intelligence to meet the challenges of the modern workplace. How do we use all of our intelligences? The ones cultivated in ourselves, each other, and the technology. And I love this framework, Deloitte's Simply Irresistible Organization. They've identified 5 areas: meaningful work, hands-on management, positive work environment, growth opportunities, and trust in leadership. And so let's apply that to our sector and look at what it looks like from a content creation and content governance perspective. Meaningful work, autonomy. Do people get to do what they're good at? Are they empowered? If you ask a subject matter expert to write content for you, what are you doing to help them? Are you going to trust them to just know what resources to go to and send them on their way? Will you give them a style guide and hope for the best? Do you send them some line edits to consider when they have time? Do you have time for a little bit of onboarding? Talk them through the philosophy? Do you have time for a follow-up? How much can you or your technology be there for them, consistently coaching them along the way, and giving them the confidence to do one of the hardest things in the world, translating thoughts and experiences into words that connect and resonate? Subject matter experts can be the most incredible brand ambassadors, but what are you doing to support them with the pressure of being your brand? Are you asking your content creation teams to do more with less, to increase velocity, target different audiences? Do you have the staffing to do this? And how will you deal with it when talent leaves during a crunch or talent arrives during a crunch? Who amongst us can say they're fully satisfied by the amount of time they have to spend onboarding new hires? And can your solutions scale? Hands-on management, clear, transparent goals and coaching. Do you have time for all that coaching that a lot of us want to do? And like those subject matter experts or distributed teams, what repetitive tasks your editor's doing that gets in the way of their genius? And we've had a lot of genius here so far, and it's, there's been so much awesome. And that's why I have a script, because otherwise I'll just be like, awesome! Ah. Positive work environment. Flexible, humanistic, inclusive, and diverse. And coming back to that empowerment piece, how have you given employees the confidence and clarity to suggest positive change? Do you have the insight into your content to see beyond the fire hose and tackle molehills before they become mountains? And do you have the insight to celebrate the win? Do you know what you're doing really well at? Because it is important to be able to step back and get the perspective to go, yes, yes, we did this, we're fantastic. Growth opportunity. Once again, coming back to that coaching. We live in a self-directed and dynamic thing. And it's great, I get to skip some of this stuff because awesome people have talked about the need for just-in-time training and all that sort of stuff. And trust in leadership and the sweating of the details that's also been mentioned this week. So what are you doing to make your organization irresistible? And how are you supporting the big L leaders and the little L leaders? I think it's pretty obvious. What kind of a coach would you like to be? I think it's pretty obvious that most of us would like to be Coach Carol, except for maybe Chris. I think you'd like to be Cruella. Yeah, but that's okay, because we have Acrolinx. And with these kind of pressures, it's not about trying to be a better person often. When we all have Cruellas that can come out. And how our structures are set up can really shape when and if our Cruellas come out and how we recover from them. If we're worn down by the repetitive tasks, Chris has already talked about, the arg, and it's hard to give nuanced feedback at that point. And there are so many things that are outside of our control. You can't control that your team is distributed across continents. You can't control so many of the factors that impact our content creation. Most of us do not have eidetic memories that can keep up with every change in brand name. But we can have a centralized terminology management system, an active terminology coaching, because AI is good at remembering things. So we take the wins where you can find them, because wicked problems require multiple solutions, and the big details are made up of lots and lots of little details. Which brings us to Acrolinx. And it sweats a lot of details for you. A lot of details that for me are where I lose velocity and feel I have so often felt uncertain and torn between editors or just the number of style guides in my own head because I speak 4 Englishes and don't know how many style guides I own. I saw Acrolinx and I just went, yes, I need this. It addresses so many pain points. And one of those reasons is embodied in this semicolon. So I have been in a half-hour debate about a semicolon when I was a young writer. And the story did not end there because I had a weird coaching experience with another writer, not an editor, not my supervisor. So I pursued the mystery of the semicolon. Because in the Australian Public Style Guide, there's like a 3-page treatise that is like, love the semicolon, bring the semicolon to the people. We must bring it back. And so when you're a young writer and you're reading the Australian Public Service Guide, you're like, yes, yes, I will follow your mission. I will go with you. I will be your advocate. And they went, no. Well, this person said, no. People won't understand it and they'll think we're stupid. Get rid of the semicolon. So then I asked around, and I didn't get, oh yes, she's right. I didn't get, oh no, she's wrong. I got confusion upon confusion. I discovered I couldn't trust the APS style guide. I discovered I couldn't trust the annotated APS style guide or the different APS style guide. The only certainty that I had after I tried to find out just what is the guidance was to be fear-driven, to not improve things and be formulaic, and to hope one day to be established enough that I too could fossilize and become a curmudgeon with my own opinions. Which is why I'm somewhere else now. And what's interesting is if it had popped up in Acrolinx, that semicolon suggestion, I would have gone, oh, that's a bit weird, it's different. Oh, well. And that would have been a much shorter story. I love that this is one of the slides of overlap as well, because editors have a lot on their plate. I think editors are amazing. They're often people managers. They have to balance going to lots of meetings, and often they're the ones most invested in all those little details. They care about the commas, they care about the semicolons or the not semicolons. And if they have time, if they're freed from that, they will give you structural edits that might make you a better writer for a lifetime. But they have a lot on their plate. And sometimes they think they're getting a grip on it and they've got their eye on one thing. But when you turn your eyes away, something unexpected often comes up. A team on another continent has just removed all your contractions. That's going to be fun putting back in. And also poor editors. We're not always that coachable. As was mentioned before, I've heard in quite a few places that, well, my writers didn't listen to me, but then Acrolinx said it, and now they understand my genius. I hope they said that. They did. They were like, yes, thank you. I would. I've been one of those terrible authors. When I think since the age of 13, people have said, "Can you make it simpler?" I mean, what? No, simpler? Do you mean dumb it down? Like no, I don't want to dumb it down. They're like, no, just make it simpler. Make it accessible. I'm like, but feelings, tough. Just make it simpler. So it's so much nicer to have something that you can get the feedback. You don't even have to agree with it in the moment. And you can think about it, process it. I have actually woken up at 2 a.m. having dismissed Acrolinx and gone, oh, Acrolinx was right. I totally destroyed my own voice. And I have a completely different way of rewriting this. So it's kind of nice the way different coaching sinks into our brain in different ways. So when we talk about an irresistible organization, we can also talk about clear resilience, responsive, proactive, nurturing governance. Because that's the kind of place where I want to be a content creator. That's where I want to be telling stories. And when you use AI to support these processes, you can have different conversations. You can build a vocabulary because it's consistently coming to you in the sidebar. You know, especially if you come from different jargons, different dialects of English. And I've got Australian, American, Canadian English, and Chinese English in my head, and they're all very different. So it's nice to create that shared vocabulary, to have better conversations about where you want to have your values in language, to conduct those experiments, or understand what it is you're doing well. So that's some big picture stuff, because I really do squee a lot about governance, and it's part of what inspires me as a storyteller. So we'll get to a little bit of my creative process. I love the movie adaptation. It speaks to way too many of the pains of a creator. It's not always a difficult, miserable process, but sometimes it is. But whether the writing flow comes easily, and I know now I have to grab it immediately, or the writing comes with incredible challenge and pain and I have to hold on to it, I know I need to capture that energy. And in that moment when the words actually come and I'm not just yearning for a muffin, my intelligence becomes very, very specific. And my writing strategy becomes very strategic. I turn off as many of the parts of my brain as I can that get between me and putting words on the page. And that is why, I can write 1,000 words in an hour. It's kind of, oh God. Okay, I think that's it. I've got all the... So basically, I thrashed so much, I shocked the battery out of my clicker. So just, when you support Acrolinx, you're supporting creators like me as well as those really precise, clever ones, okay? So yeah. So once the words are done, one, I'm a kind of impatient person. I want to send it out fast because I just want to find out, what do you think of my position paper? What do you like my ideas, whatever? Or sometimes there's just a deadline. Either way, I know I am happier if I can send it out to people. I cannot send it out to people in its form after that. So now I have Acrolinx. I have a really great process flow because that speeds me up a lot. So first what I do is I run Acrolinx, and after I've run the check, as you can see here in the filters, I actually turn off most of them. And I only look at clarity and conversational tone. That's because I know my weaknesses, and I know how much of writing university essays was just doing the grammar and spelling check. Like first it was just the spelling check, and then the grammar check came along, and it was like twice as much procrastination. I could pretend I was working when really I was just clicking check, check, check. But this conversational tone and this clarity is very different because it takes me into the meat of what I'm thinking about. It's not going to be like an editor that says, oh, you buried the lead. But it's going to say, do you realize that every sentence in that paragraph is about 32 words? Which is generally a sign of weakness and that I'm writing my way into the idea. And Acrolinx will give me some very fine ideas for how to make that more accessible. If it was good, but often it identifies the symptom, and what I do is delete that entire paragraph and replace it with a sentence. So I find this a very useful, symptomatic, early check that lets me do that big picture thinking before I get into the nitty-gritty. So once I've done the hard editing, the structural editing, then I turn on all the other ones, and I get to have more fun. I get to click the green. And I do like to push it and push it. I like to get it to 100 if I can. I generally try to cut my content by at least 10%. And it's easier to get to 100 if your content is shorter. And shorter content is generally better and punchier. It's what we're all aiming for. And I am I just really like. I don't get it all the time. I might get it twice a week, which I'm pretty impressed with that. And I know that everything that isn't 100 is a strong creative decision, or it's a quote or a reference. But I feel good about what is in that score that is green. So when a little tired out from my creative process demo. So, one of the things I like that only occurred to me pretty recently is that I think a lot of people who aren't in content creation spaces don't understand how incredibly hard it is to write something short and sweet. Could you just write a quick 100 words about blah, blah, blah? Can I write 1,000 words? Because I don't have much time. So it's kind of nice to have this yes, I can create fast. The Acrolinx score is going to be 60. And this is showing and proving and seeing that value of that creative process that unleashes and then edits, I think is incredibly valuable. And it means I can access at least a little bit of that structural editing thinking, not all of it, but some of it, while there are still typos in it that I would never send a document with all those typos and stuff, but I can efficiently do a whole bunch of stuff early on, and it's stronger for it. So for me, Acrolinx is very much a safety net for me. I feel very safe as a creator. When I was first doing my Zendesk tickets at Acrolinx, if you write to support@acrolinx.com, sometimes you might get me, so be warned. And I remember those first few tickets, and I'd been at Microsoft, I'd been freelancing. You're like, okay, I want to make a good impression. Okay, write my ticket, check it in Chrome. Oh, okay, it's not rules and triggers anymore. It's like guidelines and issues. And so it taught me the vocabulary of Acrolinx that was different to at least the language of the vendors. I can't speak for pure Microsoft, but at least vendor language. So it taught me and coached me and caused me to ask questions that I wouldn't have known to ask about, there is this interesting term that comes up. What does it mean? And it also meant that when I was getting ready to hit send on those first few tickets, it can be nervous. It can be nervous whenever you send something out that you care about or is to a new audience. And so having that ability to be like, well, maybe I just need to edit it a little bit more. I'll edit a little bit more. The Acrolinx score is 97. It's probably actually too high because I'm actually just waxing the cat right now because I'm scared. So I'm gonna hit send because I could look for a misplaced comma, but I'm good. So it gave me a wonderful sense of safety and security. So here is another way of irresistible and joyful when we attend to these things. Most of us have governance that's a little this in some way at some point. But I think if we, in our minds and hearts, are moving more towards this, we create more generous, supportive, dynamic, profitable, because we all know how much employees cost to bring in and all that sort of stuff, organizations. I've shown you some of my coaches. And if you're at this conference, you have brilliance. There are a wide range of intelligences in this room. And so when we use our intelligences to achieve our goals in effective ways, we can be more present in quality or quantity for the people that want to put us on their slide deck. And I had to create a special slide for Kim Stanley Robinson, who, I get choked up talking about what a wonderful inspiration he is to me. I love his visions of the future. Yes, you're seeing on stage a woman who tears up talking about AI in the future. Oh, take two. I love Kim Stanley Robinson's visions of the future. He pursues scientific thought with rigor and explores the humanities and what it is to be human without flinching from the frightening, unfair, and potentially cataclysmic parts of our world. And despite all that, he always manages to imagine utopian futures. And I think it is telling that in these futures, the intelligences of computers, machines that can grasp information on a scale that is unimaginable to us, is a critical component for creating a fair world that is believable. In 2312, AI balances the economy of an entire solar system, ensuring fairness and access to choices, meaning, and purpose for everyone. In Aurora, only the ship's AI has the ability to fully appreciate every life within it and save the number of lives it can. Humans struggle with scale in a way that is insurmountable on our own. But when we partner with technology, incredible things are possible. As John McCarthy said, intelligence is the computational part of the ability to achieve goals in the world. Be that goal a fairer world, a happier workplace, to consistently attend to the niggly details that seem so easy to get right and are hard to get wrong, or simply to have time for a cup of tea. So thank you and have a great evening.